other house, we lived with my aunt. That was like an emergency thing that we had to do because they called my mom telling her that if my dad was there, that they were gonna like they were amenazándola, like telling her.
They were calling and asking my mom if my dad was there, and she said no, that he wasn't.
He wasn't.
Yeah, and they were saying that if she was lying, that they were gonna come that night, and that if she was lying, they were gonna kill us all.
Who's they?
The bad people that started all this Mexican, they would call them the Zetas.
The Zetas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that was mainly the reason why we left Mexico and came to the United States, because they scared my mom, and she had 4 children. She didn't even know what to do at that moment. So we just went to my aunt's house. It was like right up the hill, and we hid all of our pictures in the house, and we just left. That was like.
It was like more difficult, like to study over there. I think that's why, and as well the violence was starting. Yeah, I think.
Well, I think that as soon as we got here,
like the days that we got here, like when everything it was
everything was like more dangerous. But like right now, when we're right here, sometimes they call my mom, oh, this happened, this and that. Like it's getting really like bad.
Was it drug cartel violence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Do you remember when your parents told you that you guys were gonna move to the U.S.?
Yeah, no.
Sort of, because it was like we couldn't. We didn't have like a say. Like it was already like the decision was already made. So they just told us like someday.
There were so many opportunities. I remember we were low income. We didn't really have much. That was probably one of the reasons why my dad had to leave Mexico and immigrate to the United States, and he left us behind so he could help us out. I lived without him for 2 years. So I remember his last meal was eggs, and he's like, I hope to see you guys again soon. And I thought he was playing around. I was a young boy. I thought he was playing around, and he just said bye. I didn't see any tears in his eye. He was just pretty strong, pretty determined, and he left. And then after a while, I was like, "Where's my dad?" You know, I started questioning my mom, like, "Where was he?" And he told me he was far away, but he was doing that to help us out. So, I mean, I lived without him for 2 years. You do feel the difference without having a parent, a dad, and it's kind of like you see kids like celebrating their Father's Day, and when you don't have them, it's kind of hard. It was hard for me, like having birthday parties where I didn't have a cake. Sometimes we wouldn't like really have like a meal for us to eat in the morning, and like a birthday cake for us was like a gansito, which is kind of like a Twinkie size, and that was our cake with the candle on, which was I understood that he needed to be gone for us to be able to eat, have our lunch, dinner, and breakfast, everything. It's like my mom would take us to the phone line, and we would talk to my dad, and my dad would always ask my mom this like a question. He was always like, "Hey, do you guys want to come and live with me? You guys want to come to the United States?" And my mom was like, she was hesitant. At the first year, she might live all 3 of us together, and my mom took the decision to immigrate to the United States.
From there, from my aunt's house, I think it was when my dad was sending money, and we left to Tijuana, I think it was.
No, we left to Apaxingán.
Oh yeah, we left to Apaxingán,
which was like 2 hours away from Aguililla. And my dad had a friend there that he took us in, and then from there we stayed for like a couple 2 months, and that's when my dad was like, "Okay, you guys are ready." So we were trying to get coyotes to come and help you cross the border, and that's after we left Apaxingán and we went to Tijuana.
I think it was,
Tijuana.
It was a long process.
Yeah. Do you remember how long? Like, was it a couple weeks or?
months.
I think we saw it as years, but it was just a couple of months because we left when school ended, which was in June.
We would go like house to another house and another house, and it was just so crazy. We had we stayed with this one lady. We didn't even know her. I don't know, but my aunt from over here, well, my dad's sister, she told my dad that there was a place where we could stay. So we stayed. We went to that house, and the lady already knew. But she had her family too, so we had to stay kind of out of it. So we slept in a room with chickens, dogs, cats. And,
Oh my god.
yeah, we left like my mom the bed and stuff, and we would sleep on the ground with the chickens. It wasn't fun, but
Yeah, the bed was full of the chicken spoons, so my mom would just put like a blanket on top and try to for 3 weeks. That was my dad was fixing the process so we can cross the border.
yeah.
When he was arranging for like a coyote to take you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
And so when that finally happened, how did you get from this house with where you were staying with the animals?
From
How did
that
you cross?
house, we went to
That's when the
when the
coyote-
lady, the coyote, she came for us, and we went to her apartment.
It was a temporary apartment, so all she had was canned food. What are they? Cup noodles?
Yeah.
The ramen.
Yeah.
And that's all she had. Like
It was, well, I thought it was really scary because she had like, I don't know, she had different things in her apartment, and she would talk to like spirits or something like that, and like just seeing that wasn't nothing.
Yeah, she
good.
had like the muerte stuff, like
Yeah.
that. She believed in the black muerte and stuff, and so we came Catholic out of Mexico. So when we got there, we were like, my grandma would take us to church every Sunday, and we were used to that. So when we got there, we were like, Mom, ¿qué es esto?
You know, like,
She was like,
And I
no
mean-
les hagas caso, don't listen.
we were small, you know, like seeing
We would ask questions.
her talking, like she would talk to the walls, or I don't know. It was pretty scary, and my mom was just like have us, because we didn't have a bed, we would sleep on the floor. So my mom was just like be next to us, and we were like against the wall, and we were
Oh, way
hugging.
better than the chickens.
Yeah.
So a couple of days later, me and her left the same day, and my mom stayed in the apartment. So we all kind of separated in our
Who
Like-
did you leave with?
the coyote lady, the
Oh,
one
yeah.
the one that was in the apartment, and so she passed me on my birthday.
Oh, wow.
So every birthday you can say, "Oh, here's my 10 years in the United States."
I think you went in first, and then it was me the next day.
Yeah, they
How did
took.
she do it?
Well, we went through a big long line. First, we went on a taxi, and it was like for about 2 or 3 hours. And then she's like, "Okay, we're gonna go in," and I had to learn this name and this girl's age in English.
Oh, the fake paper.
Yeah.
Like the person.
So,
okay.
mi nombre es blah, blah, y tengo tantos años, and you know.
I remember her name was Yesenia.
Yours was Yesenia?
Well, we passed with the same paper.
Oh.
Was it?
No, you passed with the other daughter.
Oh no, never mind. Yeah.
But
yours was Yesenia?
I don't remember her
Mine
name.
was
Yours was
Yesenia.
Yesenia.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had to learn her age, her name,
And birthday.
Yeah.
Say.
She would test us, like in the apartment. She would tell us, "Okay, so we're gonna start," and then she would be like, "What's your name?" And then we would have to tell her. And it's like, "How old are you?" And then we would have to say the number. And then she would tell us, "Oh, what's your birthday? And who's your mom?"
Who's your dad and stuff like that. So when we got to the United States, those were our first words.
What?
What's my name? How old are you?
When's your birthday?
In English.
Yeah.
That's what I. Okay.
That's the first thing we would understand during school, like when school started.
Yeah, I remember. So it was like a long line, and then when we got to the guy, I still remember his face. It was a tall African American guy, and he was just staring at me down. I was like, I was scared. I was like, he he didn't ask any questions. So I was relieved, and I was like, I asked her, I was like, is it okay that he didn't ask me questions? She's like, oh yeah, that's totally fine, that's even better. She's like, that means that he didn't doubt that you were the person that it is in the papers. So mine went well. I don't know about
Yeah, no, he did ask me. No, it was a she. Yeah. And she asked me for my name, and I told her my name. But then, like, it was just that. It was just my name, and then after, like, crossing, it was this big hill that we had to go through. And once we passed that, we got in a car, and I was asleep. And like, I think they stop you, and, like, they open the door, and they're checking or something. And then,
The immigration.
yeah. And then I kind of opened my eyes, and she was like, no, go back to sleep, go back to sleep. And I was like, okay. And, like, I closed my eyes, and I would just hear him, what's her name? What's her birthday? I was like, am I supposed to answer? Do I wake up? Like, I didn't know. And she was just tapping me, like, to not wake up. And I was like, oh. And after that, she's like, you did great, don't worry. I think it was a day after that I went.
Yeah, she took us out of the apartment the same day, but then she met us in another house, and she took me in first, and then
What was that like in the car after you'd gone through the line with this woman you didn't even know, without your mom or anybody?
so after that, after I passed the line and all that scary stuff, I went. They took me with this brother of my uncle, and since I knew my uncle, they asked me, "Oh, the lady asked me, she's like, "Oh, do you know him?" And I was like, "Yeah." And honestly, that was not my uncle. It just looked like my uncle.
Oh, wow.
So he was supposed to pick me up, but nobody told me. So I was like, "Yeah, he's my uncle." The guy said, "No, I'm the brother of your uncle." I was like, oh, "Okay." I still left with him. He took me home. He took me to my aunt's house that was in Los Angeles, and that's where we stayed. So yeah, after we crossed the line, he was meeting us somewhere, and then that's where he paid the coyote lady, and then we drove off with him. And that's where we met my sister and my brother, and she was on her way.
Yeah, I did meet my uncle, but I didn't know, like, I didn't have a clue how my uncle looked. And she had told me, she was like, do you know him? I was like, no. I was like, I want to go back to my mom. And I was crying. And then my uncle came, like, trying to grab my hand. And I was like, no me agarre, don't touch me, you know. And I was like, I want my mom. And, what's it called? And then he was like, soy Miguel, I'm your uncle. And I was like, yo no lo conozco. And I was like, I don't know you. And he's like, yeah, your mom is Maribel. And then I was like, yeah. He's like, tu papá está acá. And like, your dad's over here. I'm taking you with your dad. And I was like, and I would look at the lady, and she's like, yeah, that's your uncle. And I was like,
But you didn't know.
yeah, but I didn't know. And I was like, okay. So we got in the truck, and I stayed in the back seat. And he's like, don't get scared, I am your uncle. And I was like, okay, am I gonna go with my dad? And he's like, yeah, you're gonna go with your dad. And after that, I saw her, and then I saw I got there when everybody was in a pool. Like, it was her and my brothers, and they're like, oh, Brenda.
What about your mom? How long did it take for her to...
She got stopped twice. Was it twice?
Yeah, twice, 2 or 3 times.
She went in jail the first time, and then she wanted to try that same day, but they told her no because that same lady was there. So she went the second time, but they marked her or something like that, and she got stopped again. Oh yeah, and then the third time she went under a seat of a truck. And she said that it was a really bad struggle for her because
it was like so there, you know how over there in Tijuana it's really hot, and it was around the August times, around that time, and so the seat has like metal along the thing, so when it scoots back, and she was like under the seat, so when they were going, it was burning her. Yeah. So
I remember we were outside, and he brought in a big truck. Yeah, he brought in a big, I think it was a black truck, and I was like, Dad.
That's when we all ran.
And yeah, and that's when my mom, like, she had finally seen him, because since I think it was a year that she hadn't seen him, since he had came like
before.
Yeah, he had came before us, like months earlier, to the United States before my mom got the call.
So many times, but when the actual moment came, we just grabbed a bag of stuff and we said goodbye to my whole family, my friends at school, and we left. It was kind of like from one day to another, so it was pretty quick.
And so, do you remember the travel, like the trip from your town to the border?
Yes. It was two guys who came in the truck. It was like an old rusted truck. They put us in the back of the truck, and they drove us all the way. I can't remember the town, but it was like at least like an hour and a half away. So it was either Mexico City or Puebla or something like that. Because I remember driving like an hour and a half, and we just had blankets on, and they took us like, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was pretty early. But I remember it was a long drive.
And then from there, where did you go?
From there, we took a bus. I remember because I got sick. I got stomach sick. I got dizzy. But we took a bus all the way to Nogales. Prior to that, I heard like people talking about crossing the border, how difficult it was. People who had not made it. And then on the news, I remember Spanish news, they were talking about deaths in the desert, ICE shooting people. And it was just like little stuff like that kind of scared me. And then comments from other people in the village where I used to live, they would say like negative stuff. So in a way, I was kind of scared, excited to see my dad again, but I guess I was just nervous. Got off the bus, and Nogales, it was I never seen the town like that before. It was crowded, dirty, and they took us to this. It was like an apartment, like a complex, like a hotel, and they took us to this room. It was just like one bed, and they put us there. Me, my mom, my sister, my 2 other sisters, and me. And we just slept in that bed for like. They told us to sleep during daytime, so we would be able to go through the border at nighttime. So that's what we did. We just got there. We were tired from the road trip, and we just took a nap. They woke us up like around, if I remember correctly, like at 9, and they told us to get ready to wear the darkest clothes we could find. Nothing white, nothing that could be seen at night. So we had to get rid of. I think I was wearing my white shoes, so they gave me some other shoes. They did that, and my mom had to wear this sweater. They told us it was going to be cold, so we all wore some sweaters. My 2 younger sisters got ready, and the guy said that they were not going to cross us. It was going to be it was going to be this one guy who lived there, who later showed up that night, who was going to be the one that was going to cross us.
What do you remember about that guy?
I remember he started drinking a lot, and
he did.
He started drinking a lot. I noticed, and my mom noticed too. And I guess by the time we were supposed to cross the border, he was just too drunk. That's probably why.
And so what happened?
So he took us. We didn't walk much. It was probably like 5 minutes from where we stayed, and we walked over to like this fence. I remember the fence being about probably 12, 15 feet high. There were tires piled up to the top. He was at the top of the tires. My mom would pretty much pick me up, and he would hold me and tell me to stay at the top. And there was another lady who he already had crossed first, who was waiting for me on the other side. So they would grab me on the way down. So it was just like continuous. First it was me, and then my 2 younger sisters, and last it was my mom. So they didn't want to take a lot of people because the other 2 guys were gonna go with another person, which was kind of rare. I didn't really understand that. But anyways, the guy was really drunk, so we crossed over to the other side, and right away they told us to hide. Like right when we crossed, we had to hide. But we had to be careful because there was like a tower with like a light, yeah, with like a light just shining everywhere, and he kind of like timed everything perfectly. So by the time we were on the other side, we would be able to hide. I remember there was a lot of sagebrush, there was a cactus and everything. So we hid on their, it's like little small tree, and waited for the light to go by again, so we would be able to keep on moving. My mom was holding on to the baby, and to me, because the guy had my second youngest sister. He was holding her. I remember this because she remembers that when we started running, when the light passed, and it was like the time lapse where we were supposed to keep moving forward. We started running, and there was a hole on the ground, and he started running. He tripped, and when he tripped, he landed on my sister. He was kind of chubby, but he landed on my sister. My sister started crying, and he was like, right away, he's like, hey, be quiet, we're gonna get caught, you're gonna get in trouble. So my sister like right away just stayed quiet, just kind of froze. I was scared, and I felt more scared when he fell. Like, we didn't even last that long. Like, he fell, my sister kind of started crying, and all of a sudden we hear dogs just barking loud, and we hear dogs barking, and all of a sudden we see like people like rising up from nowhere, like from bushes. It was really dark, I couldn't see anything. All of a sudden we hear people like getting up from bushes, and we see them running, but not that even far from there. Like, there's a truck who just pulls forward in front of them, like right away, just speeding, and then he parks right in front of them, and they just stopped because the dogs were like right behind them. So they just froze. They told them to get down. Everybody got down, and then they saw us there too. We kind of got caught because of kind of like of their fault. But I mean, the dogs were there. They could literally smell us. Scared. I was really scared. My sisters were even more scared. They just started crying. The guy was just drunk. He was not all there. But I mean, it was just horrible. They told us to get on our knees. That's where I got most scared. I was like, why do I have to get on our knees for? So we got on our knees. There was a guy pointing a light at us, making sure that nobody would move. A dog next to him with another guy, a taller person, and he started asking us questions like, what's you guys' names? How old are you? But I didn't understand him because he spoke English. I didn't really understand. He just kind of like said like, ¿Cómo te llamas? And I just told him my name. Other than that, I didn't understand much of what he said.
And then what did they do with you guys?
They had a truck, like I explained, which parked right behind us. They put us in with, there was like 5 other guys, and they put us all in the truck. I remember me and my sisters being in the back with my mom. My mom was scared. She was grabbing onto my 2 younger sisters. I was just sitting there. They took us to this, it was like a jail type of thing. It was huge. There was like a lot of people everywhere. I guess I noticed how they kind of selected like people, like criminals on this side, people who tried to cross the border on this side, and then the coyotes. They were trying to, there was a section for kids, and they were trying to send us over there, but my mom said, no, you're not gonna take my kids. And then they're like, oh, no, we just didn't want to. My sisters were crying. They were like frightened, so they allowed us to stay with my mom in the cell, and it was scary. It was kind of scary in there. People were smoking. There wasn't like people without shirts. I even think there was some, like, now that I have like I'm grown up, I'm able to understand. There's like prostitutes in there, so I mean, there was a lot of.
And you were the only kids?
We were like the only kids, yes. It's like the front office. They took us out, and they got my mom's, I think they got my mom's name and information, and they didn't ask us anything. They just kind of wrote my mom's information down. So after they run our information through, they got us in the truck, and they took us all the way to, back to, I can't remember the town, but they took us all the way back to like Mexico, like further down, so we wouldn't kind of like try to do it again. The guy who pretty much had to take care of us, he found out about it. My dad, they called my dad. My dad told me that he talked to the guy. He's like, what happened? He's like, oh, they got caught. but we're gonna try it again. Don't worry." So they went back for us. They picked us up, took us back to the same hotel, same room, and my mom she was just tired of it. She's like, "I don't want to do this anymore. I don't have to put you guys through this." But I was scared. My sisters were crying. That's probably why she just kind of gave up. And my dad took the decision to pay extra money. So instead of crossing the border, now we would be able to just go, like, they would make us like false documents, so we would be able to cross the border, and it wouldn't be such a struggle to pretty much cross the desert where it's dangerous, as we all know. It took about 2 days for the documents to be ready. They told us, they talked to me, my 2 younger sisters. They explained, "Hey, this is gonna be your new name. This is your name, so memorize it." I didn't have to memorize mine because it was the same, so it was pretty easy. But my sister had to memorize other names. So when the time being, they said that we were gonna be in the car with the couple, and which they later showed up in the vehicle. And my 2 younger sisters, I remember they gave us like a small cup of juice or something, but I think it had something in it, because like my 2 younger sisters took it, I took the sip, and like probably like 10-15 minutes later, my 2 younger sisters passed out. I wasn't able to pass out. I'm like, when I'm scared, I don't care what's going on, but I was awake, and I guess I kind of got them a little bit nervous, the couple, but they just told me, "Hey, don't say anything. Just don't say anything." And when they show up, pretend you're sleeping. They stopped us. They had dogs. They smelled the car. They had a mirror, which they ran through the whole bottom of the vehicle, and I was awake. And I remember the border patrol guy, he asked me, he's like, "Oh, hey, what's your name, buddy?" And I just told my name. He's like, "Okay," and he gave me candy. So like, he gave me I remember it was like a small candy, and I just took it. And they told me to not say the word, so I just didn't say anything to him. I just told him my name, and then just did it quiet the whole time. And then they asked for our documents, the couple's documents. They gave it to them, and they ran them through. They're like, "All right, you guys can go," and we just crossed. No hassle, nothing, no problems, which was, way better than desert. They separated my mom. My mom was gonna cross as a maid, pretty much by herself, and we're supposed to meet her after we crossed the border. She was gonna cross later that afternoon, so we kind of waited with that couple for like a while, and waited for my mom to reunite with us. She showed up like around like 5 hours later. It was late at night where she showed up, and my sisters were still sleeping, which was kind of weird. I was worried the whole time. I was worried that she might not make it. Why? Like, I didn't know who those people were. I was scared. My sisters they couldn't wake up. I was like, "Hey, wake up," and they just couldn't. So I got scared. And after a while, after the 5 hours passed, my sisters kind of started to wake up again. So they woke up, and we were just waiting there. They told us to wait.
So when your mom showed up, how did you feel?
I was happy. I was like, "Oh, my mom's here. Like, she made it."
Yeah.
I was scared that she was gonna end up in the same place where we had spent the last time. Which
The guys that they were gonna help us cross, they weren't like they didn't really convince my dad, because he didn't really like.
They're like drug dealers. I think.
Yeah, they were like, I don't know if you have heard of the people that they have like Han Enterrado, I think. I think it was there where we were, supposedly, like the people that they have killed them. And yeah, my dad didn't like that either, because I remember, because he told me that it was because they wanted it to separate the girls and the guys, and he didn't like that. He's like, "If we're going, it's gonna be all of us together." But he didn't like that, so that's why we went back, and
then we decided to go in the other way.
The other way.
This side of the country, what's it called? McAllen, Texas. I think it's McAllen.
McAllen?
Yeah, McAllen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it does it. Yeah, we the first thing I remember is that they left us somewhere. We walk. No, wait. We crossed the river in like this float thingy.
Which wasn't working. They told us at the end, they're like, you guys are lucky.
Estaba ponchado.
It was
It's like they took us to their house, and then after that, they drove us to this one place. It like looked like a desert kind of, and that's where it was aside of the river, beside the river. And then from there, this one guy helped us with a como like a little what's it called, floating boat or
Like
something.
an inner tube or a boat or
It was something I don't know what's it called, but it's como que se
una
infla.
lancha. Inflable.
but it was inflated.
Yeah.
Inflated, which wasn't that inflated. So and they crossed like the entire family. No, wait, some part of the family, and then the rest, and then from there we walk like, what was it, 30 minutes? 30 minutes, and we arrived to McAllen, like the borders of McAllen. And then we stay right there. We ran because there was like
The police.
the border patrol. I remember had to run, and it was
We had
scary
to.
because my mom, like, she was saying that she couldn't make anymore. Like her
Heart.
blood
Pressure.
wasn't like, it was really low. Like she said that she wasn't feeling good. So we had to, like, let her rest for a little bit, then run again and to this house where they were waiting for us in the night, and then like in the after like 12 in the night, around 1, I think they drove us to this place where someone else was waiting for us, and then from there we went to their house. And we stayed there for like a week.
They were nicer than the other ones.
What I remember, I never thought the school was hard. Like where I was at, school was, since I was from a Spanish-speaking family, I was put in the Spanish-speaking classroom. So everything was in Spanish from first to second grade. So that was good for me. And then they were transitioning English a little by little bit. So for me, it wasn't big drastic, but I remember getting my report cards. I went back to high school and they had all my report cards, and I read that they said that my teachers say that I did struggle through it, with the language and with the new people and just kind of fitting in. But myself, I don't remember all those hardships.
Yeah. And then were you with the same group of students even through middle school and high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Were there other students who had crossed the border in your school?
Not that I knew at that age, but once I got older, mainly into high school, I knew other few students, but that's not something that we ever talked about. It's like, I'm an undocumented student, or my family crossed the border. That was something you never brought up.
So even with other students who were undocumented, you guys never talked about your experiences?
No.
Why do you think you just avoided the topic?
I think 'cause the parents never talked about it, and they always say, don't tell anybody, and that's just the way we lived, sometimes with fear. Like, I remember some people were like, oh, La Migra is coming, and it's at, at whatever store, or it's in Pasco. So within our family, when something was like that was happening, we would tell each other, and then we wouldn't go to town. And so I think it was just more of fear of anybody finding out and what the consequences would be.
she's like, you gotta kind of like just forget about it. You're here now. Learn the language. We need you to help us out, translate. So get as much as done as possible. Learn the language. That's kind of what they emphasized us on. Yeah.
And how old were you when you started helping your parents with English?
I got here when I was 6, so about 8 years old. 8, 7, 8. But it was still hard for me. It was difficult.
What kind of things would you help them with?
Like correspondence letters from school. Sometimes they didn't understand what they were saying. They didn't understand the grade system, like 3-point, like GPAs. And then like bills, like notices, or when we went to the store, tried to order pizza, like, oh, we want this or we want that. It was just little stuff like that. Sometimes I didn't know, like, or maybe he needed something like a tool so he could work on his car. That was the hardest part. I mean, how do you say this? I'm like, oh, I don't know. So it was just little stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so
in the ESL classroom setting, there was a lot of immigrant students who were there, some Russian or Ukrainian students, and we were all there, and we would always talk about, hey, remember you guys crossing the border, or you guys remember this, you guys remember that. And that's kind of like where I would like kind of remember, like, hey, yeah, we've been through a lot, like we kind of understanding now. Like it was just kind of like that little connection between us, that we were not raised in the United States, we had been from somewhere else, and we were able to speak with each other in Spanish, or kind of talk to each other sometimes. But you did get bullied in school, like in middle school. They would call you like, oh, there's those Mexicans, like jabs. They don't really know Spanish. They English. Jabs sometimes, yeah. Which they didn't understand what it meant. I was like, what are they trying to call this? You're like Mexican too, so I don't know what you're talking about. So it was just that, I guess. We just kind of get bullied. But there was this time where it was in my senior year, where I wanted to go to college, and there was this counselor who kind of put me down. He put me down when I told him, I was like, hey, I want to find out what I need to do to go to college. And he told me, he's like, well, you don't have documents, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? That's kind of like, we're kind of like putting you at your, like, they're letting you know you can and can't do in this country. And he told me, he's like, you don't have the documents. Even if you go to school, you're not going to get the help. You're not going to get financial aid. You're not going to be able to receive some, like, help that other people get. Plus, if you do get your degree, how are you going to work without a work permit? And that just brought me down. It was hard. And what got me more mad was that he was a Hispanic counselor too, which just got me really upset, and I felt down. And I told my mom about it, and she's like, well, it doesn't matter what you do, what they're saying. Like, you're gonna go to college no matter what. Even if I have to work 2 jobs, even if I have to do this, you're gonna go to college. And I just felt that support from my mom, and I didn't want to let him down. So I did my best in my senior year. Excuse me. And I applied for CBC. They accepted me, which was pretty nice. So I was kind of excited, but kind of like scared at the same time. You kind of get unmotivated, thinking about the fact that, yeah, you might go to school, but like, maybe he's right. Once you get your degree, you don't have a work permit. What can you do with it? So yeah, it's kind of motivated in a way.
For college, I didn't, because I was like, I was thinking, I was like, I don't have papers. I mean, it's something I wouldn't think of, because of not having papers. I think it's like hard.
Did you feel ashamed?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, yeah.
Sometimes you feel like that, like you don't want to be, I don't know how to say. Yeah, it's like feeling ashamed. You don't have papers. You don't want to say it because you don't know how people is going to react to it. Yeah.
Like your teachers, or
your teachers, or your classmates, or like everyone.
I mean, trying to learn a new language is not easy, especially if you don't have friends. Like, you don't know how to. You feel like if you don't know how to do your homework, how are you gonna do it? Like, your going home to your parents, they don't know. Like, they know Spanish, but they won't know English. They don't know how to answer the questions to your homework. So I think bonding, especially if a new student came in, like in the middle of the year, like introduce them to each one of them, move them around so they can talk to every single person, and if they're mean, the teacher can talk to them and be like, well, you have to understand that he's from another country and they're learning English. Especially like students that come from another country, they feel like the teacher won't like them, or they feel like the teacher won't want to help them out, and like that can be a problem too, you know. Like, it can make them feel like outcast from the rest of the students.